In case anyone on the channel has forgot this about me, I am a huge coaster nerd, huge coaster enthusiast. I just don't work on roller coaster videos as much. I focus on Nintendo stuff more on my channel. My passion for roller coasters is probably bigger than my passion for Nintendo. Nintendo is just more readily accessible to me. There are no amusement parks close by where I live. The closest is Dollywood, which is about a 3.5 or 4 hour drive, so it's in no way convenient to try to go there. And like I've said before, I'm not going there till at all the rest of this year because Lightning Rod's going to be closed the rest of this year, and so there's no reason for me to try to go. It's just not worth it anymore. I've already been 3 times this year. But anyways, we're talking about Canada's Wonderland today, a park I've never been to. Obviously, I only have 42 credits, I think, and I wasn't planning on going all the way up to Canada for that credit. But anyways, they are getting a new dive coaster called Yukon Striker. I've also never ridden a B&M dive coaster, but come on, give me a break. I only have 42 credits. I got a lot of complications facing me. For instance, I can't drive. I don't really know anybody that's into coasters other than myself. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get those credits in anywhere. But always cross your fingers for the future. Which reminds me, I should probably mention there's about a 5% chance I might be going to Canada's Wonderland next year because I'll be in that area, but it's unlikely anyone else in my party is going to care to go there other than me, which again makes it complicated to actually, go there. So we'll see. There's a 95% chance I won't be able to go, but there's a 5% chance that I might be going there and might be riding this, which would be pretty neat. But we got to talk about this coaster. Never ridden a B&M dive coaster, but I love B&M drops. They have some of my favorite coaster drops ever. So making that 90 degrees vertical, I'm cool with that. That's pretty neat. But anyways, this is the second dive coaster that B&M has installed, or not B&M. B&M's installed a lot of dive coasters. This is the second dive coaster at a Cedar Fair park that Cedar Fair has installed. The first one was Valravn at Cedar Point, and as we know, that had the record for tallest, fastest, and longest dive coaster. And guess what? This steals the record from Valravn. This is the new tallest, fastest, longest dive coaster in the world, which I find interesting. It's kind of Cedar Fair's new marketing strategy to keep beating their own records over and over and over again. It's actually a really good strategy in my opinion, because if you think about it, you're ensuring that people are going to keep coming back to your parks, plural. Keeps the money spread around different places, and it's like, oh, I've ridden the world's tallest, fastest, longest dive coaster. Oh, there's a new record holder. I should probably go ride that too. It makes sense. But anyhow, I think this looks great. I think it looks much better than Valravn. Obviously, never ridden Valravn. Never ridden a dive coaster, in fact. But I've ridden 42 coasters. A lot of those were B&Ms. Several B&M Hypers, B&M Wing, a lot of random stuff. So I think I'm pretty qualified to talk about B&Ms here. But anyways, this looks like it's going to be an incredible coaster. It looks much better than a lot of the other dive coasters. What I love about this is that it maintains the speed. And for any B&M coaster, speed is necessary. When a B&M coaster starts slowing down, that's when it starts getting bad. I feel like B&Ms really need speed to be excellent. And I think people will disagree with me on that, but I think as far as B&Ms go, in order to be a good coaster, it's got to have that speed. And this maintains speed throughout almost the entire layout, and I can tell pulling in and out of those inversions, you're going to feel the acceleration, and it's going to be great. Hope I get to ride this one day, maybe next year, 5% chance. But anyways, it looks like an excellent ride. A lot of people are talking about the vertical loop and how much they love that vertical loop. That's pretty cool. I just, again, I think it's going to be a very intense ride. I love how it maintains the speed through almost the entirety of it. It looks much better than Valravn, which Valravn, I just watch the POVs. Every time I watch the POVs, I'm like, that goes way too slow to be enjoyable, because it's like Wild Eagle at Dollywood. That's probably the B&M I've ridden the most number of times. That coaster is really good the first half, but once you get to the last little section where it slows down a lot, it's just completely, absolutely, bafflingly pointless. Um, so I feel like when that's most of Valraven. So this looks like much better, a lot faster, a lot more intense. The only problem here, some people are gonna be mad if I don't point this out, is that mid-course brake run, which brings the train to almost a complete stop. My only hope would be that in real life the park decides to not engage those trim brakes quite as hard as they do in the brake run in the video, because, like people have mentioned, that kills a lot of the speed that could have made that last airtime hill and helix really cool, but they're just going to be instead. But, what I'm thinking is by that point, the ride's mostly over. It's kind of generous that they even give you the extra airtime hill and helix, because could have just extended that brake run all the way back to the station. I mean, think about how long the brake runs on like Leviathan and Fury 325 are. Those coasters have really long brake runs, so you could just make a long brake run here. It's kind of nice they gave you the airtime hill and helix, even if it is absolutely pointless. Now, I want to talk about aesthetically here. I think aesthetically, this thing is in a great location. It looks great. Starting off, you have that dive under the water in that underwater tunnel, which is awesome. It keeps going through some greenery and a little bit of trees quite a bit. I've heard Canada's Wonderland has a lot of wooded type areas. Feels very wilderness-y, which is really sweet. I like that. The part I don't like about the landscaping is around the vertical loop section. It kind of dives into a little bit of a concrete trench, which I personally think that whenever there's a concrete trench like that around a coaster, it looks absolutely awful. I think they should stick with the terrain as much as possible and not build concrete things to ruin what would otherwise be a really cool scenery area there. And then I also like near the end, that last helix kind of winds around. It's hard to tell at this point if that's just a walking path or part of the queue, but it winds around a little plaza there, which I think is really, really neat. It's really neat when coasters interact with the guests and interact with different elements around the park. Now I'll get into my little gripe here, which is not really about the ride itself. It's about the name choice and the theming and all that stuff, because I think sometimes the theming could be just as important as the actual ride. I'll point out Mystery Mine. If Mystery Mine had no theming, that ride would actually be garbage, but because of the theming, it's a really awesome and really fun ride. Just to give you an idea of how theming can like completely change your opinion on a ride. First of all, why the heck is this ride themed to a bird? Let's go through the list here. We got Shikra at Busch Gardens Tampa, Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Valraven, now Yukon Striker, all themed to birds. Do we really need to theme all the B&M dive coasters in the world to birds? Is that really what we need to do? And the other thing is Yukon Striker. That could be a cool theme if they themed it to like mining or something like that, but no, they theme it to a bird. How many birds do you know that strike things in Yukon? None? Okay, that's what I thought. What's a bird have to do with striking Yukon? And don't tell me there's no bird involved here. You can clearly see a bird flying with a truck flying behind him in the trailer. There's a bird in the logo of the ride. And yeah, I was thinking the other day, Cedar Fair is finally starting to get the idea that we want theming in our ride with, kind of Steel Vengeance, definitely Twisted Timbers and Mystic Timbers, like they get. We want well-themed rides, and then apparently they just forgot, and they were like, we'll just go with the generic bird theme again. I'm really interested to see the entrance and queue and station for this ride. I bet there's going to be absolutely no theming whatsoever. If anyone else is with me, let me know. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be nothing except maybe a bird statue. Maybe the Cedar Fair gods will be uh, happy enough to bless us with a statue of a golden bird, but I doubt it. Like, honestly, I'm just really disappointed with the theming that's going on here. It's non-existent. And also, people are going to complain about the vest restraints. I don't mind being on vest restraints at all. I mean, they kind of suffocate you on the mid-course, or the ending brake run. Kind of suffocate you, but it's not that bad. I've only been on two coasters that have the vest restraints, those being Banshee at Kings Island and Wild Eagle at Dollywood. You can definitely still feel the acceleration and intensity of the ride with the vest restraints. People complain about the airtime. I don't really think dive coasters or wing coasters or inverted coasters are about airtime at all, so I really don't think that it matters. Just the main complaint is when you hit the last final brakes, he kind of suffocates you. And at Wild Eagle, that's not that bad because Dollywood's operations are usually pretty darn fast. But at Kings Island, I remember we were sitting on the Banshee brake run for a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes, and yeah, we were actually suffocating. It was pretty bad. But anyways, so hopefully this coaster has not so bad operations and will actually, not choke you to death. But I also feel like with the vest restraints, whenever I go over, I've been on B&M coasters with the traditional restraints as well, and going over the drops is not quite as thrilling with the regular restraints. I think for whatever reason, it feels so much more thrilling with the vest restraints. You feel so much more likely to fly out. Somehow you feel less secure with the vest restraints than you do with regular restraints. So I'm cool with the vest restraint choice on dive coasters. Of course, I've never experienced it, but I think it's a good choice, and I think it works. All right, let's go ahead and look at some stats here as well, as long as we're here. So we got trusty old roller coaster database to let us know this ride's going to be a length of 300, or not 300. If the ride was only 300 feet, there'd be more issues than I already listed. 3,525 is what I believe. No, 625. It's 3,625 feet. That's a pretty good length. I consider 3,000 feet, in that neighborhood of 3,000 feet, to be a decent length for a roller coaster. Not too short, not too super duper long either. It's just a good length. Most coasters reside around that mark, the 3,000 feet mark, and I can definitely see why it's enough to not be a boringly short ride or annoyingly short ride, but it's not so much that it's going to be a very expensive installation. So it's pretty nice, and I think this coaster is going to bring people into the park. Kind of inserted that in there at random, but height of 223 feet and a drop of 245 feet. It's actually a longer drop. The drop is longer than the height because you've got that underwater tunnel, which is absolutely awesome. Like I said, I think dropping 250 feet basically vertically on the super sweet B&M drop that I completely adore would be awesome. So I really hope I get to experience this coaster or a similar dive coaster model at some point. I'm pretty sure I will. I plan to ride a lot of coasters whenever possible, and feel later in my life I'm gonna hit up some parks pretty darn good. Next we got it's an 80 mile per hour, so that's pretty darn good. And like I said, it really maintains the speed through those inversions, which is really nice. I think they've B&N's finally starting to figure out how to make great dive coasters. Um, and the elements, we got the chain lift, the 90-degree drop, tunnel Immelman dive loop, vertical loop, another Immelman. They love the Immelmans on dive coasters for some reason. Immelman's one of my least favorite inversions, but anyways, and the block brake and the 360-degree helix. It's also going to run 3 trains. I will notate that as well. Obviously, that's why we got the mid-course brake run, to allow the use of 3 trains. So yeah, let me know if you guys are coaster nerds like me. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about Yukon Striker coming to Canada's Wonderland next year, and if you're ever going to experience it. And if you're not a coaster nerd, well, you can still comment your thoughts on Yukon Striker, but you may not have as thoughtful thoughts as someone who's a complete coaster nerd. If you are a coaster nerd, I highly suggest you subscribe to the channel, because while most of my content is not coaster related, I would love to build a community of coaster nerds on this channel, because I've already got a Nintendo nerd community on the channel. More nerd communities are needed. But anyways, I'm sure I'll think of like a billion things about this coaster I didn't mention in the video that I end up wanting to mention later. But, this should do it for now. See you guys later. Bye-bye. I'll put anything else that I think of later in the comments. Bye-bye. That's, how many times have I said bye? Let's try to set the Guinness Book of World Records for most times saying bye in a video. Ready? No, not ready. But I'm done. Bye.